What is happening, everybody? We are back with another episode of 2025 NFL Draft Preview, full depth, in-depth preview, and we're very excited to bring you today's episode. We have a ton to talk about, especially with the Combine. We got a bunch of results in, we got a bunch of measures in. Actually, Will Campbell today gets measured for his arm length, which is a big deal because we'll find out if he's truly a tackle at the NFL level with 33-inch arms, or... This video was brought to you by my loyal patrons through the channel membership program. Pledge today and receive exclusive perks, benefits, early access to videos, and more. Link in the description. If he's going to probably be a guard. As you guys can see on the screen already, we have our top 5 prospects. I actually have to change the name of mine because my name is not Hector. So let me change that real quick. But Hector, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing pretty good. Happy to be back.
Absolutely.
For another, stories, not mock draft, but who knows?
Whatever we're doing, right?
Yeah.
Whatever we're doing. We're having fun.
Shenanigans.
Exactly. So there's a lot that's happened in the NFL world, so to speak. Obviously, we're starting to hear more trade rumors. We already had a trade go down between the Commanders and Niners with Deebo Samuel on the move. We will talk about the Niners later today as we kind of give a full depth preview of what they could possibly be doing at 11, 12? Yeah, 11. Does that move maybe affect them? Do they want to maybe trade up for Ted McMillan maybe? Do they want to trade down and try to get maybe Ibuka or Matthew Golden, somebody like that? So does their needs and priority at 11 change with Deebo Samuel now gone? We're going to be talking about the Giants. We're going to be talking about the Patriots. And for positionals, we're going to be talking about tight ends, which I think is a very interesting conversation today, and safeties, which I know that you love talking about.
I do.
A certain player that I'll let you dive into. I won't say his name just yet, but hopefully everyone's having a fantastic day, guys. If this is the kind of content you guys want to see, make sure you smash the thumbs up button, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Anything that's just so immediate that you just need to kind of address right now before we kind of go further?
Immediate. It's a lot of receiver talk, I guess, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you can, the 40s happened, all the drills happened. Deebo to the Commanders, even we talked about it a few times, about how I think it's a very, low risk, high reward type of thing.
Yep.
Receivers like Tez Johnson, I know the 40 times don't mean much, but the fact that he ran the 4.5 2 times and he only weighs 150. Luther Burden running the 4.4. Matthew Golden with a 4.2.
Yeah,
that was
quick.
Was not expecting that.
Quick.
Isaiah Bond gloating how he's going to beat Xavier Worthy's time and then put up a 4.4. So I think the talk of the week is definitely receivers when it comes to immediate.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you want to talk about a certain safety that I will not
We
just
will
yet.
absolutely get into that certain safety. But maybe we should have talked about receivers today, but I kind of wanted to talk about tight ends and safeties just because tight end specifically is not the sexiest of positions. Safety's a very important position, kind of like tackle. Not the most sexy, but it's extremely important. And I think we're going to hear a lot more wide receiver news as we kind of go on later on in the couple months. Free agent signings, trades, as one already went down. So we're going to kind of see teams' needs adjust a little bit. Again, the Niners, sitting here last week or 2 weeks ago, Niners didn't need a wide receiver. Now they potentially do. So I think as we get closer, I think the wide receiver conversation is going to get a little bit more juicier, especially when we start seeing McMillan's measurables and his pro day, as we see Travis Hunter and his pro day, I kind of want to just touch upon real quick before we dive into our first topic is why we're doing this. Well, obviously, we love this whole cycle and this process of talking about the draft, mock drafts, combine stats, measurables, prospecting, and just everything related to the NFL draft. Me personally, I don't know how you feel about this, is I think this process from February to April 20, whenever the first round's over, it's like the best time of the year, my opinion, best time of the year. And also, I kind of want to bring light and some education to a lot of people in terms of this hobby of trading cards and football cards is so focused on the rookies. Well, this is where you're going to be able to kind of get an idea of the new up-and-coming rookies. You can kind of get their cards, whether it's from Bowman or Leaf, before they get drafted. And then, obviously, when the season starts in the fall, you'll have a good idea of who to look forward to, whether it's a sneaky quarterback or a wide receiver that was maybe a reach. But so I just, education, shed some light for people, obviously have some fun doing this, and just talk football at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So Next one I want to talk about, and we'll see how serious this really is. Abdul Carter, arguably the number 1 overall pick, at least a top 4 in the draft any given day, but apparently has a little foot injury.
He does.
This does affect people, affect players in a lot of ways, especially if it's something that could be either chronic or it could be something that could be serious. I mean, we're seeing Siobhan Revel's stock drop because of an ACL injury. Josh Simmons, his stock drop because of an injury. Is this going to affect Abdul Carter at all, do we think?
I think so, but not like how big some people might think. I think the latest he falls is to 5 at Jacksonville. I can't see him going anywhere past that. It's just
so hold that thought. If he goes to 5,
okay.
What's the top 4 look like?
The top 4
just players. It doesn't matter where they go, just players.
All right, so probably Hunter, Cam Ward, Shedeur, and probably Will Campbell. I don't like it, or Ted McMillan.
Yeah. Oh, I don't like that.
I don't. It's just like I said. I don't see him getting the 5. But it's just the foot injury. What are teams gonna do? But if you're not desperate, if you need edge rusher, or with how big of a prospect he is, just take him. Just take him. Send him to the doctors. Get some checkups done. And if you have to wait a few weeks, so be it. The dude's gonna be a beast. At least we hope.
Yeah, and I mean, as you can see, both of our top 5 prospects, our top 2 is the exact same. We have Carter at number 2. I agree with you. I don't even think he falls past 4 to the Pats, whether he has an injury or not. It's just, I think, something to be cautious about because you don't want him doing any drills. Not that he's doing drills at the combine, but like during pro day or like a workout, in the middle of the spring, and then he just aggravates it even more. Or come rookie camp, it gets aggravated. So teams, specifically within the top 4, if they are considering, I don't think the Giants would be a good fit. So I don't see them considering him.
I can't see it.
But I mean, okay, so the Titans. The Browns, if they trade Myles Garrett.
I think even if you don't trade Myles Garrett.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, either way, these teams have to do their due diligence, right? Because you don't want to be like, oh, wow, we'll take that guy. And next thing you know, he's walking in day 1 with a boot on.
Yeah.
So definitely due diligence. But, I mean, when you're dealing with that kind of a player that Carter is, I definitely do think it has minimal impact as long as it's not a serious injury. If it's someone that's... I mean, I'm just going to kind of use an example. Emeka Ibuka right there. He's number 5 on my list. I have him high, and I can defend that for a moment.
I'm ready.
And, that could really determine if the guy goes, 10, 11, 12 or out of the first round.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it definitely holds more weight for certain other players than, a guy like Abdul Carter. What if this was like Travis Hunter? Does you think, especially with the concerns of being a dual threat player, teams want him on one side, he wants to be on both sides. If he has any kind of injury like that could really affect him, could that even push him down to outside the top 10?
If it's the same exact, if we're talking same exact injury,
similar, something.
I can't see him getting past 8. Because if I'm like a team like Carolina and I see the injury, but it's Travis Hunter. We saw what he did in college.
Yeah.
The same thing I said with Abdul Carter. Draft him, let him rest up, heal, and put him back there when he's ready. I just can't see him falling out of the top 10 if it was a similar situation.
It's just crazy how we could probably pick and choose a dozen different players, and it's like, I think they'll maybe fall like 2 or 3 spots, and then there's some like, oh yeah, we can see them falling outside the first round entirely.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, pick any of those fringe players. I mean, you could pick any of the receivers. You could pick Matthew Golden, who's trying to be a first round receiver himself, but he might be a second round guy. So it's interesting, this conversation. What about Tyler Warren, guy like him?
If he had the injury,
yeah,
I think he would fall, just because he's a tight end.
Because he's probably gonna be the first tight end off the board.
Well, I mean, I think so. If not, it's.
So does he become like the second or third? Do you think?
I still think he's the first tight end off the board. It's just the talent he has, the talent he showed.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of just. I think he's much better than someone like Colson Loveland, Harold Fannin, Gunnar Helm. So. I think if he did have it, because I see him going in the top 10, or maybe even, I always mock him to the Colts, so most likely the Colts.
Every mock, yeah.
But I think if this was an injury for him, it'd probably fall maybe in the 20s. So yeah, a decent drop,
Interesting.
But it's a tight end, so it's like, do I really want to risk my first round draft pick on a tight end who was injured?
All right, so obviously we both know that injuries could play a huge factor into this. Especially when these kids are trying to fight for their lives, fight for draft positioning, because it does matter. You go number 1, you're going to make the most money in the draft. If you go 32, you're going to make good money. You'll have a guaranteed fifth-year option, but you're not going to make nearly as much as everyone before you. And then once you get into the day 2, day 3s, it doesn't really matter. In terms of players fighting for their lives, obviously some big ticket names are sitting out of this this NFL combine. How do you feel about that?
I hate it.
I absolutely hate it.
I like it in some aspects if you're injured, and like Abdul Carter
Yes.
came out and was like, I'm feeling 90%, which if you're feeling 90%, don't do it. Don't.
I feel like you need to be medically
cleared
to participate.
Yeah.
So if he is a 90%, let's say, he's probably medically cleared to play in a championship game, but like if it's like week 3 of the regular season, just sit him out.
Especially it was a shoulder, like not the foot injury, but it was his shoulder. Like, just wait until the pro day. Let it heal up a little longer. But now with the foot, it's like,
my thing is like we're talking about these quarterbacks, right? Any given year, they are not first round picks, or chances are they're not, or at the very least, they're not top 20 picks.
Mm-hmm.
But you got a guy like Shedeur Sanders. You have a tight end like Colston Loveland, who had a good season, but I feel like his stock is falling. And then you have just a bunch of other players just not participating. And I understand it's a whole business decision, of course. But there has to be more that goes into it than just that. And I think a lot of it plays into arrogance, especially from a guy like Shedeur Sanders. And just for me, when you're not participating, sure, the interviews are great and all that, and it's just 32 teams are there. Show them what you got.
Yeah.
Because maybe you have a team, 14, 15, willing to trade all the way up to a 3 or a 4 to take you. But they're not going to have that urge because they don't see it. And between now and the pro day, that's a good month and a half. They could go in other directions or bring in another player or just completely write you off on their board.
Yeah.
I think it's just an absolute shame. Personally.
Yeah, especially I know a lot of people hate Shedeur Sanders for reasons what happened, the whole family thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a hater. I like Shedeur. I really do. I like his talent. Oh no, yeah, I like his talent. But when he was at the combine, if you're gonna show up, that's fine. Show up. But he showed up in chains, which I will compliment. The chains are nice because they're shining. But
they were shining.
It's dude, come on. If you're gonna be there,
show my
kind of like that.
Show my drip.
Kind of like that, but 100 times. But and if you're gonna show up, he's clearly showing up just to show off.
Yeah.
Dude, we've seen your chains. It's nothing special.
He thinks he thinks he's already the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, when he's probably going to be 6 or 7.
It's just any given year, if the Giants solve their quarterback issue, I don't think he goes in the top 10 because Titans, if they want a quarterback, they could go Cam Ward.
Yeah.
If the Browns want a quarterback, you can bring back Jameis Winston and go for next year's draft. You obviously have Deshaun Watson, so it's not like you need to reach because you have a guy. If you want to tank and suck, you can tank and suck with Deshaun. And then the Giants bring in, I know Stafford just kind of got figured out with the Rams, but let's just say that was still on the table. Aaron Rodgers is on the table. A plethora of other veteran quarterbacks are.
Well,
where does he go?
So, I think the Browns can take him just because I know you said they have Watson, but I don't know the whole Watson. He's going to be out for the year.
Oh, that's right. Well, the Achilles. Oh,
yeah.
So, okay.
But let's just say they take, because I think it's going to be
bringing anybody else.
Bring anybody else. But if those two teams don't take him, and the Giants are already the only 2 teams I can really see him falling to is the Raiders. Well, not falling, but going to is the Raiders at 6, if they can't find a quarterback, or just bringing Russ to bridge and Shedeur, or the Jets. We've talked about it. I'm a give Jordan Travis a chance type of guy.
I think.
But if Shedeur is there and you've already figured out some things in the offseason, I guess why not? But the only other teams in the first round I can see taking him is, I guess, Pittsburgh, if they don't want to bring Fields back. But you're not going to risk Shedeur falling.
I was going to say, I'm hearing links that they're interested in bringing him back. I guess they don't want to bring back Fields at all, but excuse me, they don't mind bringing back Fields, who's 24, 25.
Yeah.
Take the chance.
Then,
he's in the building. He knows the playbook.
Yeah, and then, I did this in one of our mock drafts, and you weren't a fan of it, but Seattle, it's how long does Geno have? If Shedeur is there, take the chance. I guess depending on if Jalen Walker or someone like Jod Campbell's there.
Imagine telling Shedeur and Dion that, listen, pal, you're going to sit a year behind Geno Smith.
They would be pissed.
But, it's just bizarre to me because sure, you think you're the number one pick, and there's nothing wrong with having some confidence and some swagger. Go out and prove it in front of everybody, in front of the other quarterbacks who are trying their butts off to be the number one overall pick. Like Jackson Dart looked great during the combine when he was throwing the rock. Jalen Milroe had some nice deep balls, and like these guys aren't going to be the number one overall pick.
Yeah.
But they're sure as hell making a good case to be the second quarterback off the board. Not that they probably won't be, but hey, would you be surprised if? Again, I've been sitting here for the past 2 months saying I can see Jackson Dart having a huge climb, just like Jaden Daniels. Maybe not 2 overall climb, but a climb nonetheless. And it's just bizarre. And it's not just Shedeur. We're just picking on Shedeur because he's the biggest name. But it's just a bunch of these guys. It's just like, again, unless you're injured, like you said, sitting out to me is just, I think, just don't go at that point. Just don't go and just do Zoom interviews and just, do it that way if you're not going to do anything.
No, I 100% agree. Like, when it comes like Jackson Dart, I can see the whole, like, him climbing. I'd more compare his climb to Bo Nix.
I mean, I'll take the 12th overall pick or whatever. Hell yeah.
No, yeah, I like Jackson Dart. I always get into arguments with people because they call him a first or second round talent, and I think he's more of a third or fourth. Nothing against, like, that's not a bad thing.
I mean, I'd say talent wise, I can see it because I think I don't want to say he's the most complete because I don't think he is, but he is very complete. I think, like, as a quarterback, and he's going to be more so remembered for crying on the sideline. But
his issue is, and I watched a decent amount of Jackson Dart tape, not much because it's not a huge quarterback class, and I'm not a huge Ole Miss guy. His big issue is he folds under pressure, bad. So it's like you just get someone in his face, and he's loses everything. Like, at least with, like, I guess kind of like quick off topic with Jalen Milroe. We've talked about it. My issue with him, or his issue, is you lose the first read, that's it. That's something you can fix, not easily, but soon. Jackson Dart, you're going to have to send your whole D-line at him to try and fix that pressure because it's not like it's a small issue. You're watching him, and you have a guy or maybe even 2 in his face, and it's like the dude wants to cradle up and just cry.
So I just pulled up his profile, and I got some really good stats for you. And then we can get into the tight ends after this because this is turning into a crazy quarterback conversation. I'm always a fan of, I want to see progression. I want to see growth, especially from your freshman year to your junior year or whenever you get drafted. And Jackson Dart has progressed every single year that he's been a 3-year starter. His overall PFF grade has gone up every single year. His games, he's played 13 games all 3 years, but get this, he has more completions year after year after year. His attempts was the same, 22, 23, one less than 23, and then 400 this year. His completion percentage, 62.4, 64.5, and then 69.2. That's drastically improved with the increase of attempts. His yards went from 2,900 to 3,300 to 4,200 this past year. His yards per attempt all went up. His touchdowns went from 20, 23 to 29, and his interceptions went down. So, in the passer rating, 94, 110, 122. So, just there in a bulk, being at Ole Miss, being in the SEC, he's playing against tough competition, against tough defenses. He's getting more thrown at him in terms of game script, in terms of more attempts, and he's fulfilling that. And I do agree with you. He does fold under pressure a little bit, especially with those interceptions and such. But it's like, when I look at that from a player who's trying, who is improving, because I can sit here and say, I don't think Shedeur is improved every year. And then granted, he played, 1 or 2 years at Jackson State, sure, but that's the kind of prospect I like to see more than a Shedeur. And I'd rather take a gamble on him in the second or the late first round because I can see the growth and I can see the trajectory than a guy like Shedeur who's not showing me anything, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, it does. I get you.
All right, tight ends. I got a few tight ends that I wanted to kind of talk about, but I'll ask you first. What tight ends would you like to talk about? And I do have a good fluffy friend here. You want to show? Come up on the camera. Oh, come on. You can't get picked up that way. You're too chunky. We do have
the next Mel Kiper.
Yes. Who do you see going first overall? Really?
Oh, wow.
Oh, I don't like that pick.
I'm not a huge fan.
Get out of it.
Good thing he's a dog and not a bird.
Exactly. Yeah. Jeez. Okay. All right. Loveland, Ty Warren, DNPs of the mock draft, did not participate. How does that affect their stock?
Tyler Warren, I don't think it affects his stock too much. I still think he is I think a lock. What, top 14? I just don't forget where the Colts are, because I think if he falls to the Colts,
I was gonna say I think he's a lock at the Colts too.
yeah.
Where's my mouse? I can't find. Oh, here it is.
Let's see.
Colts are 14th.
Yeah, so I think he's still a top 14 pick. I think teams would have liked to see more of him in the combine, or not more, but him at the combine. But if you just throw in that college tape, this dude is clearly, actions first, think later, because he'll just bulldoze through everybody, or throw the ball, take the snap. He's just dude's a beast, pretty much. Just to make it short and sweet.
So, this is a player, Elijah Arroyo, who I don't know where he was on the board when we first started doing this, but he's a guy that I don't want to say he's solidifying himself as the number 3, but I think he's a guy that's potentially sliding into that number 2 conversation. And I say that because we've talked about Harold Fanning being the number 3 guy. That dude, awful combine. He's falling out quickly. And I think we're going to see either tight ends go left and right crazy because teams are going to want that security blanket, that receiver in a tackle's body kind of a player. But I'm going to get into a couple of other tight ends as well. But Elijah Arroyo, who's climbing, had a great weigh-in, but he had a bad workout. So, first, 2-part question. How do you feel about players excelling in one area and performing bad in another? So, for example, you do great weigh-in, your measurables looked all that good, your arm length is good, your weight's good, but your on-field stuff is bad. Your cone drills, your route running, whatever. How do you feel about doing good and doing bad?
I like it because, yeah, it's nice to do good at everything, but then teams will look at it and be like, oh, well, not much to fix.
Where's your flaw? Yeah.
Where's your flaw? But when you're messing up at something, teams will be like, all right, he did good in this. If we take him, just gotta work. We'll work with the stuff he's good at, but at least we know, hey, this is what we gotta do to make him better. This is what we gotta work on. I like the whole good and bad.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it gives the team a chance to learn how to help you, learn how to try and make you just better at what you do.
There was a behind the scenes clip of when I don't know if it was the Broncos or somebody was interviewing Jerry Jeudy a few years ago, and they were asking him, what do you think your biggest weakness is? And of course, when you get that question in any kind of interview, you're like, crap, how do I say this without sounding like I'm terrible, but sounding like I'm willing to learn? And he said strength. And I was like, wow, that's a really good one, because at Alabama, he was a big, seam guy, go route kind of guy. He wasn't really middle over the field, so there was no need to catch the ball and brace for a hit from the incoming safety.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say he's a big dude, but he's a bigger dude than, say Devontae Smith was, back then, or even Henry Ruggs back in the day. So it was very interesting hearing him say that. So there are, I don't want to say there's problems with weaknesses and flaws, because it does show teams that, okay, you're not a perfect player, so you don't have that mindset. And we can also help work on that flaw, and we can kind of mold that flaw to be a strength for us and our team. So I think it definitely serves both things. Obviously, you don't want to suck, but having a flaw and a weakness is definitely not a bad thing.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Another thing I wanted to kind of mention about tight ends, Gunnar Helm out of Texas, Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning's kind of safety blanket. He's falling in these rankings. Where did he go? He's now 114, and his ADP is 80. So that's 30 spot, 40 spot drop. How do you feel about? We're starting to see a separation in these tight ends. You got Colston, Loveland, and Ty Warren, 1 and 2. Then you got a pile of dirt, and then you got the field. How do you feel about that gap, just for the tight ends first?
I kind of like it because, Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are the 1A, 1B.
1A, 1B.
Yes.
Interesting.
I like Loveland a lot.
Okay.
I think
we'll talk about him in a minute.
Yeah. But then, Harold Fanning, he looked good, but at Bowling Green.
And that's my thing with, a lot of, Siobhan Revel is like, Eastern Carolina. It's like.
Yeah. So it's like, I try to be a player, not school, but Who did Bowling Green play?
Who did BYU play when Zach Wilson was the number 2 overall pick and people loved him?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I couldn't tell you either.
I didn't watch BYU.
Anyway, sorry. Keep going. Harold Fannin.
But Harold Fannin, I think he had a bad combine, but I'm pretty sure there's still been a good amount of players who had a bad combine, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. Gunnar Helm, I think he had a solid combine. I don't remember.
I don't know if this has his things updated or not. Let's find out. Will be under analysis.
Not too sure.
No, they haven't updated it yet
All
on
right.
here. But his trend went from like the low hundreds to the upper 50s, low 50s. Now it's kind of trickling back.
I'm assuming he didn't have a great combine, but I liked him in Texas. It's a situation where you're playing against good defenses because you're playing for Texas, and he looked good. So I think he'd probably be my tight end 3 or 4. I don't know. I didn't look too much into the Miami tight end, if I'm being honest. So
the Miami tight end. Oh, Arroyo.
Yeah.
So like my thing is again, young quarterbacks, right? Every quarterback in college, or just about, unless you're Quinn Ewers, is a young quarterback. And Cam Ward, arguably number 1 overall pick, arguably the first quarterback off the board. That's his go-to guy there. So we got to look at it from a couple different angles. Who's that good? Is Cam Ward just that good that he'll make anybody better around him? Is Elijah Arroyo that good that he's making Cam Ward look good? Because Miami, they have, I'm going to mess up his name. I'm just going to pull it up.
Restrepo?
Yeah, what was it?
Restrepo?
Restrepo. And we're not talking, and that's their number 1 receiver. So it's like we're not talking about him like crazy. So again, where is the Cam Ward success coming from? Is it coming from Cam Ward, or is it coming from Arroyo and Restrepo? It could be from everywhere, of course, but like Arroyo's like meh, Restrepo's like meh, but everyone's talking about, and again, Cam Ward in my opinion is meh too, but we're all talking like he's the number 1 overall pick. I think we're going to see a lot of disparity between 1A and 1B in your opinion for the tight ends. But I do want to kind of pull this up real quick for you. So you got Warren, Loveland, Arroyo, Terrence Ferguson, Mason Taylor, Harold Fanning, Gunnar Helm as your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 top 7 tight ends in the first expected 80 picks.
Yeah.
And then it's a huge fall off to the 5th round. 80 picks is around the 3rd round, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I believe so.
And then you got Mitchell Evans around 140, which is the 5th round, maybe 6th round. So there's a huge gap there. And yeah, there's a lot of depth here, but again, it's super top heavy, a mediocre middle, and then a fall off. Are we going to see a potential team reach on either Loveland or Warren? Maybe a team jumps to 6, 7, 8 to take one of those guys, or are we going to or is it more likely that we see a lot of these other guys go early in the 2nd round?
I think it's more of a lot of these players go early in the 2nd round. Is tight end really a position? Like I said, let's say Warren and Loveland go. Do you really want to reach on a tight end in the 1st round other than those two? I can't see it unless someone has a really good pro day, then I guess. But there's only a few teams that need tight end in this league.
Would you say that tight end is one of the most important, if not the most important position for a quarterback?
Yes, 100%.
So, and we could probably sit here and rattle off great tight end after great tight end over the last 10, 15 years.
Yes.
So like, all right, well, we like Elijah Arroyo. We have ourselves a young quarterback. I'm just going to use Bo Nix as an example. Why not try to pair Bo Nix up with this guy so he has a safety blanket, and then Arroyo can become the next Julius Thomas for us in the Broncos, to kind of string it that way. I think teams are going to start to kind of think outside the box a little bit, though they don't need to.
Exactly, yeah.
Because I think they're going to overthink this whole thing, especially within the first 100 picks. I think they're going to overthink it crazy.
Most likely. I mean, it happens every single year, so I'm not too surprised if it does happen.
Because I mentioned this last time, we're going to see positions go on runs. I don't know if tight end is one of those. Tackle's always one. Receiver's always one. Corner is always one. Where it's like one team takes one, another team takes one, and then a fleet of teams try to move up and get in on it. I mean, we saw it with receiver last year in the late to early 2nd round. Late 1st, early 2nd round.
Yeah.
A ton of receivers went. So, I mean, could we see that again with tight end? Because if you don't get one of these top 7 guys, you could be getting nobody
Yeah.
when it comes to that that group. But talk to me why you think Colston Loveland is arguably, if you're putting in 1A, 1B kind of conversation, that means you got to think that he could arguably be the best tight end in the draft.
Because here's why I think that. If you look back at the time, I know a lot of people don't like going back to look at old tape. Really, only if it's like an injured player. When he had a solid quarterback in McCarthy, he's putting up great numbers. Won the national championship, which I guess that's not a player thing, but it's still nice. When he's putting up good numbers with McCarthy, this year, Harbaugh's gone, new coach. I think they had two quarterbacks coming in, Alex Orji and I forgot the other guy's name.
I couldn't even tell you who Michigan's quarterback was.
I know one of them was Alex Orji, and it's just like that quarterback play was so. I turned on a few Michigan games this year, and it was just the fact that he put up okay numbers with that quarterback play is what I'm really liking.
Would you like his stats?
Yes, please.
Could I have him? So his overall grade was 85.9 this year compared to a 75.5 last year. Played 5 less games this year than last year, and you could probably blame the playoff run, not being in the playoffs this year. He had 75 inline snaps, so kind of that sixth offensive lineman compared to 92 last year. Get this though, 110 slot snaps. He had 143 last year. So again, that kind of Travis Kelce-ish kind of mold right there. But we've always talked about him as being more of a catcher anyways.
Yeah.
Receiver, 56 snaps compared to 45 2 years ago. He had 82 targets, which is 20 more than he had last year, 2 years ago. I got to get that right. 582 yards compared to 649 and 23. He had 4 less yards per average reception. 10.4 this year, 14.4 2 years ago. 5 touchdowns to 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of consistency and a lot of inconsistency, a lot of growth and a lot of regression.
No, 100%. It's like I said. I think it's just. Yeah, you look at the stats and not great, but tight ends rarely ever put up great numbers unless you're someone like Brock Bowers.
It's a different animal, though.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous. But I think it's just bad quarterback play. Because we always see. Like junior year is all right, you're fine. Or I think it was a sophomore, junior year. I forget what year he's in. But that's when you start to get your game together. Then your last year is where you really show it.
Yep.
And the fact that in his last year he had, mind you, he's still playing in Michigan, so hard teams to go against. But coach change and very bad quarterback play is like worse situations.
Speaking of Michigan, I heard on the radio that Donovan Edwards, cover of CFB 25 this past year, is projected to be in the 7th round.
I mean,
that's imagine saying that. July of 2024. We just got the cover athletes of him, Quinn Ewers, and Travis Hunter. And like that guy in the middle is gonna. Well, I don't know if he was in the middle. I think he was on the side. It doesn't matter. Is gonna be a 7th round pick.
Well, you just look at the cover in general and think only one of these guys is going in the first round. Now, Quinn Ewers is what, 3rd, 4th round pick probably, and then Donovan Edwards just had a bad season.
Now, when we get into our quarterback conversation again, because I think we should definitely revisit the quarterback spot. I think the conversation of quarterbacks going here, going there, I think is going to be a lot different than the one that we had 2 weeks ago. But I don't want to get into quarterbacks just yet. But I mean, I definitely do think Colston Loveland is going up on a lot of people's boards. I think a lot of teams, scouts, and organizations are, kind of see exactly what you're seeing is, all right, he had a good coach, which we have. That's kind of the thought process. We have a good coach. All right, he had a good quarterback. We have a good quarterback. And he's, in some areas, put up better numbers. He got more targets. He had a better overall grade. And, blocking isn't a grade. So, I mean, not a stat. So he's probably blocking more, especially when he's playing a lot of inline snaps and he's playing less snaps outside. I just think, I don't know if he goes past Tyler Warren. I just don't see that.
No, I definitely, that's why I said the whole 1A, 1B. I mean, I know that's supposed to mean you can argue.
Yeah. You can flip-flop. I mean, it's just organizational preference maybe. But, I mean, do we see Tyler Warren going past 14 now? The Colts are at 14, and if he's there, we both think that the Colts will stick and pick and take him.
Yes.
But is there of course there's a world, but do we realistically think that a different team, or maybe the Colts trade up themselves, who knows, take him higher than 14?
Yeah, I think so.
So, hold that. Do you think Colston Loveland goes in the top 14, whether that's to a different team or maybe the Colts because Tyler Warren's gone?
I don't think so. I think he is a. I mean, it
It's
depends.
tough to say.
Yeah,
On
because it's
March
like
2nd.
the Colts. Like I said, Tyler Warren could go early, like how I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and the Colts could take him. Like, all right, we lose Warren, but we're still getting Loveland. Or the Colts can be like, oh, do we really want Loveland when there's so many other players available that we could take? Because I know they need corner badly, they need edge rush badly. So it's like I think the only way you don't take those is if Tyler Warren's there. But
So I'll give you an argument for Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren.
yeah.
Is Colston Loveland's had a better career, better collegiate career overall? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at Tyler Warren's stats, and I'll give them to you guys in a second. And Colston Loveland, way better overall package because Tyler Warren, though he had a 91.3 grade this year, he's played 16 games. He has 104 receptions compared to 34 2 years ago. 135 targets this past year compared to 49 last year. 2 years ago. Whatever. 1,230 yards compared to 422 2 years ago. And the touchdowns are still the same, just about. I don't care about the snap location. So my point is, are we taking Tyler Warren based off of 1 year and 1 year only? Because we look at Brock Bowers, 3 phenomenal years at Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
We look at Colston Loveland. He's got that overall package, even with the regressive quarterback play this past year. And Tyler Warren, we're not going to sit here and say Drew Aller is this great quarterback, but he's putting up massive numbers with Drew Aller. But with nobody else, or didn't put up any other numbers the years before. So it's like, is Tyler Warren maybe overrated? Lightning in a bottle, just a 1 year wonder? Maybe?
I don't think so. Because you said 1,200 yards, that is an 800 yard gain. If it was like he went from 400 to like 850, then all right, I can see it.
But like he wasn't stuck behind anybody though. It's not like there was a Brock Bowers in front of him, that was stopping him because he was still playing snaps like crazy. 364. This is in 23. 364, 184, 129 pass snaps, inline slot snaps, compared to 486, 161 to 230. So he is playing more, of course, but their offense is on the field more. But still, though, it's just like the snaps are there in both years.
Yeah.
But he's having just way more action this year.
I mean, I think it could be a situation. I mean, I think there was another tight end there last year or whenever it was. I'm not.
Yeah, last year, 2 years ago. We talking about 23.
Yeah, but I think the whatever his name, I forget his name. I don't pay attention like that to him. But probably realized like, oh, this guy's pretty good. Let's feed him more.
Feed him.
And when they fed him 1,200 yards and however many touchdowns, so it's like. Is his jump kind of wild from what everybody expected going into the year? Yeah, most likely. But like I said, it's an 800-yard difference. Yeah, he's getting more targets, more receptions, so it's going to happen. But putting up 1,200 yards as a tight end is pretty wild. Like I said, unless your name is Brock Bowers or any of the great, like, I was going to say someone, but he's probably
So in September, his ADP was about 112.
Jeez.
He has now gone up to about, where is it now? I gotta move this. He is now about 10.
So 100 spot jump. Just how the season
I'm gonna
goes.
say this now. I don't think it'll happen.
Okay.
I would not be surprised if Colston Loveland is the first tight end off the board
I wouldn't be either.
because they see the overall package.
I wouldn't be either.
I think that's just a very, very interesting. And funny enough, we're talking about both these tight ends, and none of them participated in the combine. And I think the combine would have played a huge factor into who is going to emerge further because I don't think the gap's pretty close. I mean, the ADP has it pretty 10 to 30 for the two of them, but I think it's a lot closer than that looks like personally.
I agree.
But I think the combine, if they both participated,
I just think Warren is slightly. Oh, not slightly. I think he is above. I wouldn't be surprised if Loveland goes for before him.
Mm-hmm.
But with all the things he did this season, like, all right, let's take the stats away. This dude is passing the ball and efficiently, which is weird. Not many, but when he did pass it,
yeah,
I think he had a touchdown or maybe even two. He was in the backfield a few times.
Weapon.
Like, I think that's why he's going to go over Loveland. Like I said, ignoring the stats.
Yep.
But
the intangibles, that's what we're looking at.
It's just teams can look at like, oh, he did all this work. I mean, Loveland didn't. But I mean, that's not to shame Loveland, but Tyler Warren did all this and looked efficient doing it.
I think teams are going to have a very difficult choice to make if they're looking at taking the first tight end off the board because you don't want to be that team that takes the wrong tight end, and the second team to take the tight end off the board takes the right one.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that whoever you pick is the quote unquote right one. And and we're not paid enough to make that decision. Actually, we're not paid at all. So, all right, let's switch to safeties now. That was a great tight end conversation. Again, tight end's one of the most important positions that people just don't talk about. But safeties, we've alluded to this enough. Talk to me about this player that you want to talk about so dearly.
My favorite player in the
Yes.
it was Mike Green for a while. It was Genty for a while. But
I was going to say, I think it went Genty, Mike Green, and now
Nicky Minwori.
All right.
Now,
what about him?
This dude is a monster. He put up his combine.
And this is the important of the combine here, is we can have this conversation because if he sat out, we're talking about him maybe in the second round. But now we're talking about him in the top 25, 20 picks.
I think it also depends on where Malachi Starks goes. I don't see him going over Starks, even though I like him. Personally, I like him more than Starks. Not because I think he's a better player, just like him. But no, I think he was first in every single category. I think Starks took a few when it came to the combine, but I think he had a 43-inch vertical.
He had a crazy vertical.
It was insane, and oh man, I was watching it. I had it pulled up and I was working.
You were all giddy and excited.
I was like, please go in the first round.
So I wrote down on my little note sheet here. I'm kind of show you guys little arrows up and down, and I have Nicky Minwori going up, obviously, because that's what the combine does for you. You go up and you go down. Some stay the same, some don't. I also have Malachi Starks going down, even though he's number 3 on my big board right there. And we can talk about the big board real quick later on. I still think Malachi Starks is the overall better package, better resume. I think he has a better skill set. But again, when you perform at that level, like Starks did, performing with all these different measurables and all these different workouts, it helps make this conversation more challenging for teams and for us to debate back and forth. Yeah. Who do we think will be the number 1 safety off the board? Probably Malachi Starks. But hear that, probably. Yeah. A month ago, it is Malachi Starks. So again, I don't think Malachi Starks had a bad combine. He didn't have a blow you out of the water combine, kind of like Nick Minwori just did. Yeah. And he's gonna be able to use the pro day, private workouts, interviews to even help better improve that stock. Where do you see? Let's just assume Malachi Starks is off the board. Okay. It doesn't matter where he goes. Say he goes within the top 16. That's the first half. Okay. Where does Nick Minwori go?
If I still think with how the draft is, he's a high second rounder.
Still, even after that workout.
I need to see the pro day too. It's just like we just said, I'm a huge fan of him, but safeties aren't seen as a top position to go after in the first round unless it's someone you think can be generational. Yep. Now, I think he can go anywhere to like 24 at the Vikings. I'm not too sure. I forget who their safeties are. I know they have Harrison Smith, but Harrison Smith isn't playing since they use Stone Tools. So he's going to go eventually. And I guess if you're going to draft a safety, Harrison Smith is probably someone great to learn under. So I can see him going to 24 at Minnesota. I can see him going to not Philly. Philly maybe if they just want, or honestly Buffalo. I can see him going. They need DB, mostly cornerback.
They need a cornerback because they need Kyer Elam the hell out of there.
I can see him going to Kansas City, which I would hate it, but I can see it. I could see him going to Washington. Like it's just he could go in the late first. I just think he's more of a early second rounder. Okay. Which, like I said, I know is crazy because I love Nicky Minwori and I'm waiting for some cards to come out from him, but I haven't seen any. I think he has some like leaf cards. Oh, I think
probably does.
I'm not too sure.
I was trying to find like a list of safeties drafted in the first round.
I know Minkah Fitzpatrick was one.
But he was also like a corner kind of hybrid.
Well, I feel like that's what a lot of these safeties are coming out because Malachi Starks can be the corner or the slot.
I mean, we've talked about Jahdae Barron. Yeah. I think early on he was a safety, but now he's looked at more of a corner.
I think it's more of they play both hybrid, but then the rookie season goes on the second year. That's when they officially like Minkah. Yeah, he played both mixture of corner, but he's now a solidified safety.
Because we got Minkah, Derwin James. I'm forgetting another one. It's so embarrassing. Oh my God.
Was McKinney at first?
I think he was.
Pretty sure McKinney was a first-round pick.
Xavier McKinney. Let's find out. He was.
I think he was a late first with the Giants.
Well,
Obviously Giants. But
maybe if I put draft.
I think that would help.
He was. I can't see because my screen's cut off. He was. It doesn't say. Hold on. In the second round.
Was he?
Bummer. Second
know
round.
that.
Yeah. God, he's a great safety, and I can't think of his damn name.
When you say great safety, is he still playing?
Jamal Adams was a first round pick.
Yeah.
Oh, he sucks now.
Oh, yeah.
Like 10 years later.
Wow, this is bad.
This is so bad. Minka, Derwin James.
Jabril Peppers. I mean, was he? Was he a first-round pick?
Oh, I wanted the pass to take him so bad. I think he fell to the second. I'm not even gonna bother looking it up.
No.
Jamal Adams. Oh my God. This is so embarrassing.
You know what team he plays for? Or?
Nope, I got nothing. Quick. I'll think of it later.
Okay.
But crap. What were you saying about safeties? I was listening to you, but I was trying to look up something. Oh. I think what we see a lot of times in college is defenses will drop into a zone, like a cover 3 shell, maybe even a cover 4. So now your corners are playing deep safety.
Yeah.
So I think they got to look, because if you're playing deep safety and you got the linebacker, kind of in front of you, okay, the linebacker's zone. The zone is covering that wide receiver.
Yeah.
So here comes a post route. So now I got to split to go cover that post route. And at that point, you're kind of more of a safety, free safety at that point.
By the way, I think it's Kyle Hamilton you were probably thinking about.
Thank you. Yes, Kyle Hamilton.
I don't know why. It just popped up in my head when you were talking.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, so again, like we've seen safeties go in the first round, perform at high levels in this league. And it would be blasphemous for me to say that if there is a safety taken in the first round, or when there's a safety, because Malachi Starks will be a first-round pick. It's a question of, will Nick Emmanwori be a first-round pick?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Brian Branch, second-round pick. McKinney, second-round pick. But these guys have the talent and the resume, had the resume to be first-round guys. What was his name? He sucks now, but Louis Seen. He was drafted by the Vikings, and of course now he's on the Eagles. Georgia safety. He went 32 overall, or 31 or something like that. So again, it's not out of the realm to see safeties go. It's just how much do these teams want to value? Because if you're taking safeties in the first round, you either have a blaring position in need, or this piece will be a jack of all trades to make your defense to the next level.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're going to see with a couple other safeties. I put 2 other safeties because they're listed as safeties, but in PFF they're cornerbacks. So I guess we can kind of have that debate. Darian Porter from Iowa State, Maxwell Hairston. These 2 guys, not the biggest of names. I'll kind of just give everybody a brief idea where the hell they are. They are, Maxwell Hairston is 73rd ADP, so that's about 3rd round, mid-3rd. And Darian Porter is 55, which is that late second round?
Yeah.
But again, that's where they are now, and they had killer combines.
Yeah.
So this is another example where the combine is going to help you jump and excel. Now, I'm still going to sit here and say that, I just got to keep filtering because they're technically listed as corners, that Starks, Emmanwori, Xavier Watts are still all better. Talk about safeties, Xavier Watts. What a fall off of grace he's had.
Yeah.
I remember our early mocks, he was first-round pick, honest. I mean, we've only do first rounds, but, we were taking him in the first round. Talk about the drop of players. You could talk about Xavier Watts if you want, Notre Dame, or you can just talk about it in general. But yeah, go ahead.
A lot of I think it's just injuries. I mean, poor combine play, but like Savon Revel, Benjamin Morrison. I'm even seeing Will Johnson start to fall in some mocks and just.
Yes, I've seen that too.
And it's just
and he's arguably the best corner in the draft.
It's injuries. He had an okay. He didn't have a great combine. Apparently, I know his arm size isn't the greatest. It's just. I think it all falls to injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, yes, combine play, plays a factor into it, but like Savon Revel, first round pick if he didn't get hurt.
Let me ask you this: does age play a factor? Because now these players are starting to stay 4 or 5 years.
I think it depends on the position.
That's fair.
Like linemen, no. If I get draft a 24, 25-year-old lineman, as long as he's good, go ahead. Quarterback. it depends. Like, if it's like it depends on his play style. Because like Lamar, how much longer does he have? It's not because I think he's like
Bad.
weak or or bad. It's just we've seen years and years of mobile quarterbacks just not lasting long. Vic, Vic had his issue, but it was only a year, but when he came back from it, he looked good, but then fell off.
Yeah.
RG3, I'm not gonna blame him for that.
That was not his fault.
No, I'm not
He
gonna
should
blame
not have
him.
been playing.
No. So it's just like, is someone? Jaden Daniels looks good. He's gonna be what, 24, 25.
He's an older guy.
Yeah.
Him and Penix are.
Now he looks
Bo
great.
Nix, yep.
They all look good, but Bo Nix, I think he'll last longer than those two. Or Penix isn't really mobile. I mean, he can be, but
I think it also depends on your play style too. Because if you're getting a pocket passer, I mean, we're seeing pocket quarterbacks last in their late 30s.
yeah.
So I mean, if you're getting somebody at 24, that's 15 years. Well, let's say 10 to 15 years of that quarterback play. When a guy where you don't need speed as a safety, you need speed as a corner. But like, I mean, Devin McCourty, perfect example. I mean, he was playing to his like late 30s before he retired because he was just a center fielder free safety.
Yeah.
So age works a little bit better.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the position.
I would absolutely agree with that. And I think we're going to really start seeing, as more and more years go by with these drafts, with the NIL, that players aren't going to be coming out at 21, 22. They're going to be coming out at 23, 24, be a little bit more experienced and seasoned. And I think that's only going to help make better prospects. Because how many times, specifically in basketball, but football too, have we seen top prospects, young, insane prospects, suck at the next level?
Yeah.
We see it all the time in the
All the
NBA,
time.
and we've seen it in the NFL. Trey Lance, Zach Wilson. I mean, I'm not going to say Mac Jones because he was older, but these other two guys were younger. Kenny Pickett, he was 22, and he's a champion, so. But it's just like they flame out because they have one or two good years in college, and they think that they're hot stuff, and then they get to the big boy level against big boy players, and they suck.
Yeah.
All the time we see in the NBA. NBA needs to have like a 2 or 3 year minimum in college or G League or whatever.
I'm pretty sure didn't they just change the thing where it's like you can now from high school again, you can go from high school to the NBA?
So in the NBA, as far as I know, you have to be either 19 or 1 year removed from high school. So obviously when you graduate high school, you're typically 17, 18.
Yeah.
So therefore the players will go to college for a year, or they have like now these professional leagues where you can go play professionally, make money before the NIL, and then get drafted to the NBA. So you can play overseas in Europe, you could play in China, you could play in the G League, not G League, the OTE League or the Ignite League. There's all this league and that league though.
Yeah.
But that's kind of. But again, NIL might even change that in basketball too. So we'll see what that looks like in future years. But I think getting seasoned players, especially at safety, linebacker, I think is just fantastic because you need those guys to be smart, to be experienced, to be able to weather the storms of, let's say an offensive, raid. Any other safeties that we kind of want to talk about? We talked about tight end a lot. We talked about safeties a lot. We do need to get into our teams, but do you want to kind of touch upon anything when it comes to safeties before we pivot?
I don't think so. I mean, I know there's a few solid safeties. I know I don't know their names. I only focus on like Watts, Emin Warrior, and Starks. There's the one from Iowa, and then there's the one from Penn State. From what I've heard, they look good because
Penn State. Oh wait, Iowa. Sebastian Castro. That's his name. Penn State. Kevin Winston Jr.
I think I've heard a lot of Kevin Winston Jr. I'm pretty sure he was a solid safety. I'm not sure about I already forgot his name.
He was injured this past year, but last year, 2023, he had an 89.2 overall grade, 506 defensive snaps, 0 missed tackles.
Ooh.
0. But this year he was injured. So.
Yeah.
Again, injuries play a factor. If you put those stats back-to-back years, you're probably in that first, second round conversation. But now we're talking about him as a
third, fourth rounder?
Mid-third round pick. No. Yeah, mid-third round pick. All right, so at the top of the episode, mentioned about 3 teams we're going to talk about today. Last video, we talked about the Jets, Titans, and the Browns. First, second overall, and then obviously the Jets kind of with the whole Aaron Rodgers, what-if situation. A little bit more stability with these next 3 teams, the Patriots, Giants, and Niners. I kind of want to talk about the Patriots first. Bias a little bit. Shocker. There's rumors about this player, that player being at 4. I'll just kind of rattle off. If they're there at 4, you take them. Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter. End of list. That's it. If Mason Graham's there, all set. If Ted McMillan's there, all set. Let me pull up the top. Let me pull up the big board, and I'll just kind of run over players. And I can absolutely defend all these picks if you want me to. Ashton Genty's there, obviously. I'm good, unless the whole little situation where you like trade down, and then you take them. Will Campbell, we'll see what the arms look like. But the fact that we're questioning the arms, I think it's just so stupid. I mean, can the guy freaking block? That's the question. Can you block Myles Garrett? Can you block all these great edge rushers?
He can block. It's just I think his biggest issue was speed. Not his speed, but how he handles like speed rushers.
Well, having longer arms will obviously help you kind of break up that speed from the defensive player further away to give you some more space and time to kind of defend. It's a lot of signs. But what about the Patriots? Do you kind of want to, because obviously you have an unbiased perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sit here and talk about the Patriots from a biased perspective, but kind of talk to me about their potential game plans, what they should aim, what they should do with the pick. I'll tell you what they should do with the pick. Stick and pick. All right. What should they do?
To me, I sort of agree with the stick and pick, but like you just listed off, I think there's only 3 players you should take at 4. With Carter, Hunter, McMillan. I know you're not high on McMillan. I'm all right on McMillan, but if you're gonna have to stick and pick, I don't like taking Campbell that early. Mason Graham, I like him a lot. Obviously, he's in my top 5, but I don't think the Patriots really need D-line as of right now.
Yep.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt because he's this dude.
I just don't want Mason Graham at 4, and I heard on the radio before coming in that he had a bad combine. I didn't hear what. But, do you really want to take a defensive line, a nose tackle at 4th overall? When you have other needs.
Well, it depends on what Vrabel thinks. I think Vrabel would love him as
I'm sure Vrabel would love anybody on that side of the ball.
Yeah, but it's just McMillan. You need the receiver, and I guess this is a situation of, hey, we couldn't get nobody free agency. Let's go get a guy who's proven he can be good, even if he didn't. We talked about off camera, but he played hurt this season.
Yeah,
and still put up solid numbers. If he's fully healthy, can he put the same thing? Obviously, he's not going to do better in the league in his first year, but can he put up some similar numbers in that first year? But if I'm the Patriots and Hunter and Carter are gone, I'm going to trade back.
So that's the only situation I'm trading back.
Yeah.
Unless you absolutely love Will Campbell, which is very possible. If your 2 guys aren't there, because you have 4, you're probably, as the Patriots, thinking that 2 quarterbacks are going to go. I don't think 2 quarterbacks will go, but they're probably thinking 2 quarterbacks will go. That should leave you with one or the other, Carter or Hunter. But if that's not the case, say there's a team that trades up, or just say 2 quarterbacks do not go, look to trade back for a team to take a quarterback at that 4th spot.
Yeah.
Get those assets and capital, and then do other stuff with it. I kind of want to touch upon why I'm against McMillan because of these stats. So Noah Fafiti, good prospect. I think he'll be a good quarterback. What was he, a freshman this past year?
I believe so. A lot of these good quarterback players are freshmen.
The quarterback class, I think, in a couple of years. And we might see teams wait for next year's quarterback class when you have...
Or even the class
or
after
the class
that.
After that. So that's why the conversation of taking Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders isn't so solidified, especially when you do have a good abundance of quarterbacks in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round area who are pretty damn good. Anyways, McMillan, 84.8 overall grade. Pretty good. 3 points less than last year. 1 less game, receptions were down, targets were the same, yards were down, touchdowns down.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not by astronomical amounts. It's 6 less receptions, 2 less touchdowns, 70 less yards. So we're not really, I'm being super nitpicky, but if I'm dealing with a 4th overall pick at a wide receiver, wide receivers going 4 overall do not happen often. OBJ wasn't a 4th overall pick. Julio Jones wasn't. He was a 6th, I believe. I know Marvin Harrison was last year. Didn't do that great compared to what he was supposed to be. Other wide receivers, Jamar Chase, he was 5th, but he's a different animal. Justin Jefferson wasn't 4th overall pick. So it's just, I have trepidations.
Yeah.
And I think the Patriots would only take McMillan if they're not able to address the wide receiver position in this offseason. T. Higgins, most likely off the board. 98%.
Yeah, especially now that you have to trade for him.
Debo's off the board, just being traded. So we'll see if they're able to do anything else. And if they're not, then they might be in a pressure position to take somebody.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thing.
I kind of like the fact that he put up similar. I know he did technically worse, but like we just said,
it's consistency.
It's consistency.
I'll give him that.
And he was hurt. So it's if he's fully healthy, how much, I don't know.
Those 10% better numbers maybe if he's healthy?
Yeah, is he better?
Just staring.
He's just sitting there staring at you. But if he's fully healthy, how better is he? Is he what was it, 1,300 or 1,200 yards
He had this year or last year.
this year?
He had 1,316 receiving yards.
So if he's fully healthy, is that 1,500? And then with the touchdowns, is it instead of having 2 less, does he have 2 more?
Yards per catch, he had 0.2 yards more per catch this year than he did last year.
What's his yard? What is it?
15.7 this year, 15.5 last year.
Wow, 15 yards per catch is.
He had 18 his freshman year.
Jeez.
You want to know his freshman stats? I'll give them to you.
Why not?
66.5 overall grade in 12 games, 505 snaps, which is more than this past year, but not as much as 2 years ago. He had 39 receptions, 81 targets, so he was whiffed on like 40-something times.
Yeah.
702 yards, 18 receptions, yards per reception, and 8 touchdowns when he had 10 and 8 these last 2 years. So touchdowns pretty consistent in a small sample size. So could we chalk that up to quarterback play? Sure.
I was gonna say, I'm assuming, does it have like a drops thing? Because
drop rate is 7.7%. That's his drop rate, though.
Yeah, that was that freshman year or this year.
Oh, 2024. So this past year.
All right, because you said 39 receptions, but on 81 targets. I don't remember. I mean, I know the I forget his name, but freshman quarterback in Arizona looks good.
Mm-hmm. Safeties?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My issue is when it comes to stats, a lot of they'll say targets, yet the ball is way over his head. So I mean, he mostly had a good amount of drops, but it's like almost 50 missed, 39 for what, 80? I usually think you say 81.
39 receptions for over 81 targets.
So it's like, is that him dropping or is that poor quarterback play? I know. That's one of the things I wish it did.
So let me give you these advanced stats. I'm not an advanced analytic guy. I could give 2 craps about it. Mm-hmm. But this is among wide receivers with 50-plus targets, these stats I'm about to give you.
Okay.
So he had 7 total drops this year. He had 29 missed tackles. That is tied for 3rd in the nation. This is a guy who's 6'5", 212. That's a big boy making missed tackles. Deep catches, 12. That's tied for 21st.
Mm-hmm.
He only had 6 screen passes, which is tied for 276th.
I mean,
he's not. Well, no, that's a good thing. Yeah. I don't want a slot guy. I don't want my 6'5" guy.
I was gonna say you don't want a 6'5" guy. No.
He has 26 slot catches, which is tied for 176th. I'll have Pop Douglas in the slot. Yeah. I'll have Jalen. He can go to the moon. He had 18 contested catches, which is tied for 7th. He had 472 deep yards, which is 21st. He only had 4 screen yards out of those 6 screen catches. That's tied for 442nd. Slot yards, 452, which is tied. I'm sorry, no, that's just 110th. He's not a slot guy.
Yeah.
He's a deep X receiver.
Which I'm fine with. Which
I want.
Yeah.
Now, if this is him, now all these conversations we've had, guys, I didn't know these numbers. I didn't know these advanced analytics because I'm not an advanced analytic guy. I could care less. I might like him.
Like I said, I know we talked about the whole his stats, quote unquote, got worse, but same thing.
One more stat, real quick. Average depth of target, 13.7, which is tied for 128th. Sorry, keep going.
I think the injury plays a big factor into it. Even though, like I said, he played hurt and still put up the same thing. Like I said, if he's not hurt, does he put up 1,500 and the 2 or 3 more touchdowns? I think teams, especially the Patriots, are going to be like, hey, this is a player we need for the offense. Yes, we need linemen, but Drake May needs that number 1.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be Hunter Henry.
Nope.
It's not going to be Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk. The other rookie receiver they took, I forgot his name.
Javon Baker.
I think he's not too bad.
Blows.
I don't know.
Blows.
He didn't play much.
Let me ask you this. Do you think... Actually, I don't know. I can't think of any Packer receivers that suck because they're all super mediocre.
Oh, we don't have any bad. I guess
they're just like
the worst.
They're like C+ kind of players.
The worst one, I guess, would be Malik Heath. But even when he plays,
who?
if you watched Packer games,
I'm good. I'm good.
You like Jordan Love though.
I do like. Well, I liked him at Utah State, and I wanted the Pass to draft him. And
you should like him as a Packer too.
No. What about so receiver we touched upon with the Pats. We talked about the line. We talked about both lines.
Mm-hmm.
Do they go anywhere besides D-line, O-line, or receiver?
If they trade down...
If they're stick and picking.
If they're stick and picking? Mm-hmm. I mean, technically, if you take Hunter, yes. Because he's corner, receiver.
Yeah.
But other than that...
if Travis Hunter is if he's a bona fide two-way player,
Mm-hmm.
that could be the steal of the draft. Because the
could be.
Patriots need a number one receiver, which he could be. And they kind of do need a number two corner, which he might be a number one corner on other teams. But if he's our number two corner with Gonzalez, again, that could be the steal of the draft because you're just two birds with one stone.
Plus, even like I think a good scenario for the Patriots could be, you take, let's say magically Hunter falls to 4.
Mm-hmm.
You get most likely a 75% corner, 25% receiver. Then you still have an early pick in the second. I talked about him. I think when we first did this, Jaden Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of comparisons. All right, so McMillan real quick compared a lot to Drake May. Oh my God.
Whoa.
Yeah, crazy. Drake London.
Yeah.
But so is Higgins, and they look identical.
But see, I don't want Higgins. I don't want Drake London at 4th overall, though. That's my problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But if that's what I'm saying. If you take Hunter, well, I meant like measurements and stuff. But if you take Travis Hunter, have him be your corner 2 with Christian Gonzalez, no fly zone again in New England, take someone like Jaden Higgins in the second. I mean, yeah, you'd most likely take a lineman because you need lineman bad. But let's just say they address it in free agency, which is very possible. You take a receiver with a second-round pick. You have Travis Hunter, player mostly cornerback, but if you want to put him in, kind of how Deion used to play back in, the 90s, where he's mostly corner, but he'd come in for a few offensive snaps. I think that'd be the best-case scenario. Like I said, assuming they address alignment in free agency, which they can easily do.
Easily. All right. I want to say this one thing before we switch to the Giants and the Niners. The last time the Patriots took a wide receiver out of the state of Arizona was N'Keal Harry. Sucks. So that's
okay, but
there's no connection at all. But that's a fact.
It's technically true.
All right.
Yes.
We got 10 minutes left. We got to hammer through the Giants and the 49ers. We're not going to get to a mock draft today, but maybe we'll do one and then we can post about it and we'll have fun with that.
Okay.
Giants. Shadur Sanders seems like a lock if he's available at 3. Maybe Cam Ward's there.
Mm-hmm.
We most likely think they're taking a quarterback at 3.
I don't know.
Well, but let's just have this conversation to be more enjoyable if they go elsewhere. Because I think this conversation is a little bit more debatable and conversationable if we assume that they're not taking a quarterback at 3.
I've honestly, the past few weeks, I'm done with them taking a quarterback.
I've been saying this for months.
I think Travis Hunter's a giant. I think he is a giant unless the Browns take him, which I don't think they will.
Tennessee Titans say they want a generational talent. You can find an Abdul Carter almost in any draft.
Yeah.
That kind of prospect of a player. Generational, edge rusher, defensive player, go get some sacks and all that stuff. But how many Travis Hunters are you ever going to find?
None.
I mean, more maybe moving forward.
Yeah, but very few. I mean, the last technical one we had was Deion Sanders. Unless, I'm probably missing a few, but.
So let me ask you this. Travis Hunter, let's say he's gone.
Okay.
Come the Giants pick. Say both quarterbacks are available. Do they still steer away from the quarterback? Maybe Abdul Carter is available at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe McMillan. I mean, they're not going to take McMillan. Do they take let's see, what else are their needs? Their needs are, according to PFF, quarterback, tackle, defensive back. Travis Hunter makes perfect sense here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're assuming like Hunter is gone.
Hunter's gone.
And they're not going to take Carter. So, all right, so let's just say the Browns took Abdul Carter. If both quarterbacks are available and they didn't address it in free agents or the offseason, Cam Ward or Shadur, yes. But let's say they have the quarterback already.
I was gonna say, where do they?
I trade down.
Oh,
you trade down. That's
what I was kind of getting to.
Yeah, maybe that team like the Jets or the Saints. I don't know if I told you this, but the Saints had an interview with Cam Ward recently during everything.
We can talk about the Saints maybe next episode. Maybe he falls to the Saints. Just falls.
Or him or Shadur. But yeah. So it's like if in a world where both quarterbacks are there, Hunter and Carter are gone. You're not going to take Carter, but I'm just saying he's gone for the scenario. And you have your quarterback already. Trade down. Try and get some picks. Maybe not completely down, but to like I said, the 7 to the Jets, 8 or 9 to the Saints. That's where you can take someone like Will Johnson. I think Jahdae Barron's still going to be a later in the first round, but Jahdae Barron.
Let me ask you this: Hunter's gone, one quarterback's gone. Their quarterback is not figured out. Carter's still on the board. What do they do?
I think you take the quarterback.
So you the second quarter. Well, the quarterback's already solved.
I think you said it wasn't solved.
No. So Travis Hunter's gone.
Yes.
One of Shadur or Cam Ward is gone. They brought in Joe Schmo as their quarterback. They brought in their 2025 quarterback.
Okay.
What do they do?
I still trade down.
Okay.
Because you don't.
So it's Travis Hunter or trade down.
Yes.
It's kind of where you're going.
Yeah, if they have their quarterback. Because
if they have the quarterback.
I love Abdul Carter and all, but their D line is honestly
solid.
They have Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Dexter Lawrence.
Yes.
Do you really want to add to that when you can add to a corner linebacker?
And they need a lot of help too.
They need a lot of help.
Trading down definitely.
Like I said, they're in the best scenario because they're usually teams are, especially in this draft, looking for that D line help.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants, with how bad they are, surprisingly, their D line's fine. Leave it alone.
Giants are actually in a pretty good spot because if they need a quarterback, one will most likely be there.
Yeah.
Obviously, do we see a world where the Titans and the Browns both take a quarterback?
Yeah.
Sure, but chances are probably not. Or Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter is going to be there. Now, if both of those guys are gone, you got your quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
If the quarterbacks go, then you got the other guys. So they're in a really interesting spot where one of those guys will be there at 4.
My hot take is this will most likely change. This is like a steaming hot take.
Steam
is if they have their quarterback, whether it's Aaron Rodgers or a rookie,
yeah,
and they do well in the draft, they could be a 9 or 8-9 win team.
Okay, let's talk about the 49ers. We're not. Okay, 49ers. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off there. 49ers at 11. It's the first team outside the top 10 we're talking about.
Okay.
I couldn't think of a third team because I didn't want to go like, oh, let's just talk about the Jags. Let's talk about the Raiders. We'll save those guys for later. Niners just traded Debo, 5th round pick, best they could do. That's from the Commanders, late 5th round pick. First of all, should any of other team offer a 4th? Just yes or no?
No.
Okay. Contract, Diva, probably, regression of play, I'm guessing. Okay. Sorry, we're trying to speed this up. We got 5 minutes. What do the 49ers do? Their current needs are guard, tackle, D-line.
I think they go guard with Campbell if he's still there, but if not, you got to take an edge rusher.
So I think if Will Campbell's there, whether his arms are long enough or not, you take Will Campbell if he's there.
Mm-hmm.
You can start him at tackle. He can be your replacement for Trent Williams. Or if you need him to play guard, that's a big boy at guard, so you're pretty good there. And then when Trent Williams retires, you can just kick him outside because he's still a tackle at heart. But does the conversation for a wide receiver change at all with not having Debo no more? And we've already seen a report that they might trade Ayuk too.
I don't think they trade Ayuk because
they just traded Debo.
Yeah, but you could take Luther Burden if McMillan magically falls to 11. Put in that card immediately.
Do they trade up for a McMillan? Do they say the Pats pass, the Jags pass?
I wouldn't, just because I know it looks good now, but in a year or so they're gonna need help. You got to pay Purdy. Players are getting older. I think their capital is fine. I don't think it's crazy.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to find that, but I can't find the damn team. Where is the? There they are. No, they're good. They got
so I don't think you should trade up for McMillan.
They got 11 picks.
Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Like I said, don't trade up for McMillan, but in a magic world where he falls to you at 11, you put that card in immediately, and you have the X, have him go deep, and then you have that you put him in the slot.
Do you reach on Burden if 11's a reach, or do you take Burden at 11? McMillan's gone. Maybe you say Will Campbell's gone.
No, because edge rush is still a big need.
Okay. Second question: do you trade back? Say it doesn't matter if there's an edge rusher available or not. Do you trade back and take Luther Bird and say 15, 16?
I wouldn't hate it. I think that's a perfect spot if you're going to take Burden.
Mm-hmm.
Trade back into it. But for me, as someone who despises the Niners, you...
Unbiased hats on, baby. You got to keep them on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, but as I'm a Niners, I'm sticking and picking, either taking Will Campbell, edge rush, or McMillan if he's somehow there.
Is there a position we could see them... Because I think the Patriots and Giants, from at least the 3 teams we're talking about today, are pretty predictable.
Yes.
Just chances are Pats are going to take one of the Carter or Hunter if one's available. Giants, if the quarterback position is not solid, they're probably going to take one. Or they'll take an available Hunter or somebody, or maybe trade down.
Yeah.
I think the Niners being at 11 is way less predictable because, A, 10 players ahead of them. Who knows what those 10 players will be?
Mm-hmm.
For all we know, this foot injury for Abdul Carter could be serious and he could fall. Chances won't happen. But I'm just saying, it could be so unpredictable.
Yeah.
So it's a lot harder to be like, oh, we could see Mason Graham falling and they should take him. Is there a position where we think we'd be kind of scratching our head if they take, obviously, quarterback, but like
honestly,
wide receiver's not a head scratcher. Offensive line's not a head scratcher.
I think the only position I can see head scratcher is linebacker because you have Warner and Greenlaw. Well, I think Greenlaw's a free agent, but if they don't bring him back, that's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But honest, I think every position I wouldn't hate. Like, if Ashton Genty is there at 11,
Now, you mentioned this before, and I was like, wait a second. But McCaffrey, injury prone,
and he's getting older.
another year older. He was a workhorse 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You still have Frank Mason, as far as I know. I don't know what that looks like. It's
Was how Shanahan runs his offense.
that would be crazy.
McCaffrey and Genty in the backfield would be
So,
deadly.
last question before we kind of do our outgoing takes here.
Mm-hmm.
You take Ashton Genty, you run the two of them together for 1 year, then you trade McCaffrey. Thoughts on that?
I love it.
Love it.
Like I said, as unbiased hat on, I love it. It's you need a lot of other pieces, but if that's where they go, I would love it because, like I said, you get to learn behind. I mean, he's already good at running back.
Yeah.
You get to learn with Kyle Shanahan's system and McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Then you McCaffrey just I know they extended him, but trade him to like Carolina again or something. I don't know.
Wow, it's almost like the Panthers could use a running back. Yeah, they should.
I don't know.
No.
But yeah. So I think if they did that, 1 year with him and then kick him, I think it's a great scenario for the Niners. Now it's very, very unlikely.
Yeah.
But more if it did happen, I would like it.
I mean, if he's there, they're one spot ahead of the Cowboys, so it's like it'd be kind of like an FU. A couple other questions, real quick. Is the Debo trade a factor of having to pay Brock Purdy?
Yes, and it's just with how bad he was this season. Well, yes. Quickly answer, yes, it was a factor, but it was also you had your time to shine to show, hey, you are still the one, and you blew it.
So especially with Ayuk, going through his contract thing and missing time himself. Does this offseason, will their offseason moves be dictated based off of their feelings of having to extend Brock Purdy?
Most likely.
So
they
could be cheap maybe this free agent cycle.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to pay him if you do want to keep him around.
Do they pay him? And if not, do they draft his replacement? And if they do, I'm sorry, I'm throwing a million questions.
No, you're
at
good.
you.
You're good. It's just,
do they pay him? Yes or no?
Yes.
If they don't, do they draft his replacement in this draft?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, there goes my third question. I was going to say, who do they
All
draft?
right, fine. I'll say yes. Let's do it.
Okay, who do they draft?
Damn it. Probably like Jackson Dart in the second.
Ooh.
Or well, just any Quinn Ewers. I don't know, he's older. There's any of the quarterbacks really. Like Dylan Gabriel. I guess
they could trade Brock Purdy for a king's ransom and have no dead cap because he was the last pick in the draft. And I think once you get past the fourth round, there's no dead cap.
I mean, can they really get a king's ransom for a guy who's going to request probably $60 million a year?
That's just the going rate for quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say he's a proven winner, but he's been to the Super Bowl.
I mean, because I was talking to him quickly with my dad about it, and I was like, yeah, they're going to have to pay you brought him to the Super Bowl. But he said, he was like, Jimmy Garoppolo brought him to the Super Bowl. And it's like,
that's true.
Did they pay Garoppolo that money or did they boot him? They booted him.
Well, he's also 30.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But it's just like, is he going to get that money, or are they going to be like, hey, because it's just that Garoppolo did the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting. I'm a fan of Purdy. Obviously, he's not the best quarterback.
I love the story of Purdy.
Yeah, but I think if they can get him on a cheaper deal, do it. If not, I mean, like I said, they can clearly plug in any quarterback and make it work.
That's not how that. Oh yeah, it is. Okay, real quick, outgoing take. Any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, anything about the draft that we talked about or didn't talk about that you want to kind of say?
Honestly, I think we covered a lot of it.
We covered a ton today.
We covered a ton. I don't think there's anything else that
there's honestly nothing to talk about. We have our top 5 prospects here that we've listed for the entire time. Next time when we record, I think we'll do one more 2-week gap, and then after that we'll do every week leading up to the draft. So we'll have another 2-week gap, guys. This list will absolutely be different. At least for me it will be, and I'm sure for you as well, as we get more information, more stats, more measurables, more news, about the 2025 NFL draft. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or want to chime in anything we talked about, mention anything, give your thoughts or takes about any of the players that we did or didn't talk about, drop those down below in the comments. Again, like, comment, subscribe, check out the channel membership program. Thank you so much for watching this massive video of the 2025 NFL draft preview. I think that's the name of it on YouTube. I made a playlist, but I forget the name of it. That will do it for this one. I'm going to have the next video cover Hector's face. If you guys want to watch that, I strongly recommend you do, as it'll be great for your hobby endeavors. Until next time, guys, we'll see you. Peace out. Bye. Bye.